Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about where do medical billers and coders work. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. So where do we work? Well, we work in a variety of places, not just in a hospital, but we can work in like freestanding clinics, like rehab facilities. Sometimes for drug and alcohol rehab, there are medical coders there. For urgent care, there is also medical coders. Sometimes they are on staff, sometimes they're working remotely. It depends on the facility and if they have the space and if they have the need for the coders to be on campus, they will have them there. Insurance companies often hire medical coders to understand what is actually happening with this medical documentation and to help solve disputes and things like that. They always have to have a medical coder on hand because it's not just about, well, they're just taking in all these claims from all these other medical coders. It's their medical coder on staff that's going to be able to say, well, you know, this and this and this. So there's a lot to working for an insurance company. Attorneys also need medical coders as well. If there's a law firm that has lots of medical type suits, then they are going to be looking for medical coders. And sometimes you will see that. And sometimes it is just a matter of networking with attorneys to see if they need a consult from a real life medical coder, which I think that would be fascinating because if you're brand new to my channel, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an attorney. I think, and I can't even believe I never thought of this before, but it would be awesome to do a consult to an attorney, but I don't know. I think when you work with alpha personalities, there's one type of alpha personality, which is like in the medical, and then you have another type of alpha personality, and that's like attorneys. They are completely different, so I don't know, but it would be an awesome challenge, and I think it would be fascinating to do. We also can work in the prison system. So I have known people who have done externships and who actually have worked in prison systems and the jailhouses, and they're medical coders, and they work in the clerical side. That is how they fall under in that type of setting. But that is another place that medical coders are needed because they do, obviously, in the prisons and in the jails, they do have their infirmary. And they would need a medical coder. Now think about this. If you are working for a prison system, you are going to need to know injury coding. Injury coding is really huge. Same thing if you are working for an attorney. Attorneys not only have like other things like pharmaceutical suits and things like that, but they also have like accidents, like car accidents and things. So if you are wanting to work for a prison system, then you are going to need to be very sharp when it comes to the injury coding and knowing your initial visits and your subsequent visits and your sequela and understanding the proper application of these codes because it is really important. Let's see, what else? Well, I mean, it's when you are looking at what your best bet would be, like what type of coding to know, you really want to kind of know a little bit about everything, right? A little bit about every single specialty, because if you do that, and then you can be put into any place. And like the ER, there's always coder calls for the ER. And the ER is going to be everything. Like you have to be ready for everything. Because it's not just accidents, it's like being poisoned as well. Like if a person has taken too much of a medication or maybe a kid has ingested something that they shouldn't have, that's something that you're going to have to be able to know how to code. So injury coding, when you are looking at alternative places to work, is really huge. Some people have asked me about dentistry and dental coding. So I will have to say this though. The dentistry field has taken a huge hit with this pandemic. I'm not going to lie, because, you know, a lot of dental offices have, you know, had to close or temporarily close because of the pandemic. People are not able to go, you know, to get routine dental care. So that is something to keep in mind. Like optometrists as well, but optometrists is something different as far as like, I didn't really hear about them too much getting closed, but I did hear more about the dentistry side getting closed. Not to say that they're not reopening. I'm sure there are some, depending on where you are in the US. And but they do have a need for coders as well. Sometimes because of the routine nature of their dentistry clinic, sometimes it may just be somebody that's in the office doing it, and they may not even really want a coder. But it doesn't mean that having a trained coder to look at their records wouldn't hurt. So that is another alternative place to be able to work. There is a special book called the CDT, and I will leave the link for some coding books for dentistry down in the description box below. That way you guys can check those things out if you're interested in that. But it is a lot of just the oral surgeries and things like that. So you would have to know about the anatomy of the face and the teeth and things like that, because when you're talking about those bones and having to talk about doing reconstructive surgery and coding reconstructive surgeries, that is what that side of the house does. Now, of course, regular dentistry is not like that, but when you're talking about like oral maxillofacial surgeries, then that's when you're talking about that kind of surgery coding. So that is something to be aware of if you are interested in doing surgery coding. Same thing with the eyes. Sometimes like these LASIK centers, a lot of it is routine, but sometimes I have seen where LASIK centers or other eye hospitals are needing medical coders, because what they do is more specialized, or they work with a very detailed population. Like sometimes if it's for like what is it? I just blanked on the word. Shoot. When they have like cataracts and things like that, that's what I was thinking of, or glaucoma or something. And when you're thinking about like cataracts and glaucoma, you're thinking about like an older population, and so they're going to have a lot of comorbidities as well, like diabetes and hypertension, and all of these things, vascular and endocrine, they're going to affect the eyes. So that is something that you're going to have to be familiar with when you are working in something like that, in like optometry type. With a urology clinic, same thing. It is going to be where you're going to have to know about the urology system, you know, your kidneys, your bladder and all that stuff. So you have to be more sharp if you are looking at doing a specialty type of setting, whether it's one of those or if it's a gastro clinic. Same thing. You're going to have to know the specialty side of that coding. And I think it's easier when you are in a specialty clinic like that, because then you can zero in on that particular system and all the things that affect it. Like, of course, with the eyes and diabetes and smoking and hypertension, all of these things affect the eyes. So that is something to be aware of. And it should help you when you're thinking about studying for getting into a clinic like that. But yeah, there's plenty of places for us to work. There's also government places. Government hospitals obviously need coders as well. So that is something that you can do your research on and see about applying for those positions if that is something that you are interested in. But there's different requirements for everywhere you go, whether it is a state-run hospital, a government-run hospital, or a public hospital. There's going to be different things. But you are going to have to be submitted to a background check. So just make sure that you are aware of that. With background checks, are looking for like a criminal history and things like that, because you are going to be working with sensitive information. And when you are working with sensitive information, it is very important to know that the person that is being hired to look at people's personal information, and very sensitive information at that, is somebody that is of a clean background, basically. So that is something that you should know about this. But of the many places that you can work, there's just a variety. And I really do recommend looking on sites like Indeed. This is not an ad for Indeed, but Indeed is a place that I go to look at for when I do my job listing reviews. And they do have like a lot of different titles for medical coders. Of course, I've talked about this before. Sometimes it's not just listed as medical coder. Sometimes it's health information clerk. And then when you start reading the job listing, it is describing all of the characteristics of a medical coder. So that is something to keep in mind. And if you are looking for a remote position, if you have no experience, just because we're in a pandemic, doesn't mean that a remote coding company will hire you. Always be open to applying at a place that you have to physically go, because right now, 9 times out of 10, they're going to send you home because everybody's at home. There's a vast majority of people that are still at home. Some people have gone back to the facility. It depends again on where you are in the US. But if you get your experience while you're working at home temporarily, right? Because we don't know how long this thing is going to last, and we don't know how long facilities are going to keep their workers at home. So if you're getting all of your experience in, this is still a good thing because you still got what you wanted, which was to work at home. But keep in mind that you still need to learn a lot of things. And if you have a good coach from your workplace that is willing to help you online, that is really great, and you are extremely blessed because that is not always the case. Sometimes when people are being hired remotely right now because of the pandemic, the employers are just going to see what that coder is made out of. Do they have really good research skills? Can they be a self-starter? Can they do these things? And that is very important. When I tell you guys about learning how to do your research, I literally mean learning how to do your research. Whatever clinic they put you in, wherever you go, right? You want to make sure that you are looking at all of the procedures and everything that they do, all of the diagnosis, you're looking at them very closely, that you understand. When I got put into the respiratory clinic, because I had to rescue the respiratory clinic or the pulmonary clinic, I immediately went online to the American Lung Association and started reading everything that I could about lung and lung diseases and everything else. I had to do that because I had to get myself familiar with what I was working with. And as a medical coder, that is what you do. I had coded respiratory before or pulmonary before, but never as intensely as being in the clinic and coding for the clinic. So that is something that you have to get ready for when you are a medical coder, because that is what we do. And because you weren't trained, perhaps, is not a reason that you can't excel at it, right? You can still excel by doing your research, going on the internet, watching videos on YouTube, and picking up a book and reading a book. I'm always going to recommend the books, guys. Always going to do that. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. I know this one is a little short, but I have been running backwards in high heels all day. So I am going to close this one out. I hope you enjoyed this episode today, and I hope that you will tune in tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time for the continuation of Motivational Vlogmas. It'll be day 3. All right. If you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider, or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all next time. Bye.